Hey everyone, thanks so much for being here. This is Authentic Conversations with Entrepreneurs. I'm Katherine Morales. I'm an Authentic Brand Strategist, and I'm so thrilled to be here with Holly Fisher. She is a story brand guide, content creator, clarity queen, and founder of Fisher Creative Marketing. I say hi, Holly. I'll pause a second.
Yeah, thanks for
There we
having
go.
me. Yeah.
Yeah, I know I'm gonna give you so much opportunity to talk, but I just want to set it up here. This is episode 18. I being a theater gal, I love the Shakespeare angle of this. To team or not to team?
That's right.
That is the question, right?
Right.
But what we do each episode here of Authentic Conversations with Entrepreneurs is how it sounds. We have authentic conversations, and I talk with entrepreneurs like Holly about their experience in entrepreneurship. I define authenticity as the good and growing that lives within each of us in our journey. I say it's like the hills, the valleys, the humps, and the mountains that we conquer. Each journey is unique, but there are some common through lines for each of us. So I love when entrepreneurs are willing to come on here, share that vulnerability of their growing experiences so that other entrepreneurs can learn from one another. So our topic today is to team or not to team. So I will start there, Holly. What on earth does that mean to you? And when did you first hear it?
Yes. So that to me really means, do I want to have a lot of people that are working with me or for me, or do I want to continue to just basically work solo? And that's a big consideration when you have a business, right? Is trying to decide, do you want to have people that are on your team? How many? What does that look like? Are those
Right.
contract employees? Are those full-time, employees? Are those just some, a virtual assistant that you have? That can
Yeah.
go a lot of different ways.
Yeah. So did you have a team at some point, or
Yeah.
do you now?
Yeah, so my journey is a little interesting. I sort of fell into entrepreneurship and owning a business. I was a newspaper reporter for the first part of my career, and then kind of shifted into doing marketing and PR, and worked for another business for a couple of
Cool.
years. And then decided to just kind of go out on my own. But didn't really see myself as an entrepreneur or business owner. It was like, I'm just going to, I don't know, have some clients and do some work and I don't know, we'll see
You're
what
the great freelancer.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so I really I didn't even, I had my business for several years before I even started an LLC. I just was a
Wow. Yeah. Yeah.
solopreneur.
Just under your name.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I was just like, baby business. But people would ask, are you going to hire people? Are you going to get an office? Are you going to go, grow bigger? Because I guess that just feels like the natural next steps.
Yeah.
Businesses, right? A lot of people start out on their own, or maybe they have a partner or something, and then eventually, right, they grow, or maybe they get some office space or whatever. And I really resisted that for years. I was like, no, this is great. I love just kind of doing my own thing.
Yeah.
And probably about, I don't know, maybe 6 or so years into my baby business is when I did kind of start to get a little bit more big girl business, formed an LLC.
How did you define that? When did you know it was not a baby and it was getting big girl?
Yeah, well, then it's some of it just actually came from sort of like taxes.
Oh, yeah. Okay. That's a wake up call.
Let's start an LLC. And I was like, I guess let's stop sending invoices through like a Word document, and maybe you get QuickBooks. And I was like, all right. I'm starting to be like a real, actual business here.
And look at that. I love it.
And at that point, I did decide to bring on a couple of contract employees. I probably took my first baby step with that when I had a summer intern. That was like my first, dipping my toe into, could someone enter my sphere and it work out? And had a couple of really good summer interns, and then brought on a couple of contract employees, people who were local to where at that time most of my business was local to where I was living at the time, and so had local folks that I brought on, and it was.
And they were physically with you.
Sometimes they mostly work from their homes, but we would meet up usually at least once a month, or go to client meetings together, things like this. Was all kind of pre-COVID where we still did it,
Obviously, yeah.
in person,
And
So-
were they team members, like the contractors, were they doing like helping you with the services you provide?
Yeah, I basically made them essentially account managers, and so they were responsible for certain clients,
like a firm,
yeah, doing their, the clients. So at that time, I did a lot of social media marketing. I did public relations work, and so they would be responsible for those clients, and I kept some clients myself, some of the ones that I'd had for a long period of time, but anybody new that came on, I would give them to one of the contract employees.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. You were expanding.
It allowed us to take, it allowed me to take on some additional clients and business. And, at that point I felt like, okay, I was at a point where I could also afford, to pay people to help me with these things.
Right.
And they were fantastic. It was really great. It was actually really fun to kind of have people to collaborate with and kind of share the workload, or, actually I took a pretty good vacation that year with my family and was able to kind of leave some other people in charge. So there were definitely some benefits. Yeah,
I'm hearing them. So what happened then? Because you don't have the team now, right?
I don't. So it was a few different things, but largely I did get certified as a story brand guide, and decided I just wanted to shift the services of my business. I really kind of didn't want to do the social media marketing as much anymore. Really enjoyed helping businesses with their messaging work, writing their website copy. And I was able then to also work with more people virtually. So it expanded my reach. I could work with people really anywhere. And so that and a couple of other just sort of personal reasons decided that I just wanted to go back to being solo. It was a very difficult decision because those women were, one of them I had known for years. We had gotten to be really good. All of us had gotten to be really good friends. And so actually they ended up spinning off their own businesses from
together or like on their own?
Yeah, separate. They sort of both did marketing, but kind of different focus areas.
Well, you inspired them. There you go.
I know. I joked that I was like the business incubator there for a while.
You go. Yeah.
And they actually took a couple of clients that I had previously had that I didn't really want to work with anymore because I was changing the focus of my business.
Yeah.
And so they, like I said, just kind of spun off their own businesses, and I decided to go back to being solo at that point.
So tell me, a little bit more about, I'm familiar with story brand guides, but tell our audience a little bit more about like what that is. Is it like within that structure, is it like, are most people solo guides like you, or do they have teams?
Yeah, sure. So if anybody's familiar with the book Building a Story Brand by Donald Miller, it outlines a 7-part marketing framework that relies on the principles of storytelling to better tell your marketing message. So I actually read that book and really loved the process and decided then in early 2018 to go through their certification program. So I've been certified in that. That's what I use in working with all my clients. Whether they're familiar with it or not, I'm using that to help clarify their message and write the rest of their marketing content. So there's quite a few people that are certified in that, scattered all over the world. And it's very different. There are people that work solo like I do. There are people that have agencies. There are people that do mostly copywriting like I do, folks that do website design, SEO. Everybody can kind of make their business however they want. So it's really it's kind of cool. Yeah.
Yeah. Love it. So this was 6 years ago, and since that time you've been solo. But when we define team, I know you said at the top like contracted versus like a paid employee, but surely you're not doing every single part of your business by yourself. Because if you are, like, I'm very impressed. But is there a team that maybe isn't in-house or even contracted, but partners or people that really every entrepreneur should work with?
Yeah, absolutely. So I definitely have a bookkeeper, which was like, she's the best because I hate doing all those things. So
Yeah.
you can kind of go in and keep the QuickBooks cleaned up and make sure all of that stuff is good to go. So having that bookkeeper, obviously having the accountant to do the taxes, things like that. So people that
Yeah.
can handle the finance piece is great. Highly recommend that, especially if that's not your
Like,
area.
unless you are the CPA, maybe you get this. Right. Yeah.
I hated it too. I was like, this is definitely not a good use of my time.
Right. Right.
Trying to figure out QuickBooks. Not a good use
Yeah.
of my time.
Yeah.
So
It was one of the first team members I that core help.
exactly. And then
Yeah.
probably about, I guess, around 2 years or maybe a little over 2 years ago, I brought on a virtual assistant to largely help me with my social media and some content creation. So she helps me make sure I get my emails out every week and keep my social media current and all
Yeah.
that. So that's been really helpful as well, because even though I can do all of that stuff, it was just too much. I just needed someone to help me with some of those pieces. So
Yeah.
I definitely have those two folks. And then I also collaborate with a lot of people. So I have a graphic designer that he and I work on a lot of projects together. Sometimes I'll bring in obviously web developers if I have a client that, we need to finish building out their website. Maybe it's
Yeah.
photographers or videographers,
Yeah.
people like that I can, sort of have on a temporary team, right? Maybe to do a client project or even just to collaborate with. So
Yeah.
I find that's
Yeah.
been really beneficial. It's just kind of having those sort of partnerships and people that you can pull in on projects as needed.
Yeah. I love that. And I think it's smart business too to have those sorts of partners. So, or collaborators, if you will.
Mhm.
Yeah, I think I mean, similar, I'd say, yeah, I had the bookkeeper initially, actually then went to like a CPA and who did
Mhm.
all in one. And yeah, very similarly assistant to help with the social postings, which was, I think it's when you're like us, right? Like you do marketing and messaging and stuff, it's kind of like this little hill you have to get over. Like, well, it's a should, right? Like I should be doing that because that's what I like. I don't necessarily do social postings, but I know about it, so I should do that. Like, and especially even like with the authentic piece, I was like, well, how can I give it to somebody else, and getting past those layers. But yeah, I think it's you know, especially like the term solopreneur is not about going it alone, right? It's you are the expert in what you're the expert in, but you know, entrepreneurship, I mean, there's stats on this, like it can be a lonely business. And especially, I think in the COVID time, where we really couldn't go anywhere, right?
Mhm.
So I think these, like, what are we going to call them? Like the core team that you like need for your stability of your business,
Yes.
and sanity probably for your business.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I would add to that too. I don't know if I'm sure your VA does some of this too, but like some of those administrative tasks, like being responsive to certain emails if you're out at meetings, even setting up meetings, things like that, that you could spend, hours in your day doing that stuff.
Yeah.
Your time is money ultimately if you're in services business.
Yeah,
So
absolutely. And
yeah,
I would say too, even finding like just maybe people in your similar industry that you can just kind of powwow with, right? So I definitely am
yeah,
part of that story brand community, which is great. So those are people that you can kind of tap into if you're struggling with something, or where things you might normally go to a coworker, right?
yeah,
And ask for help. If you don't have a coworker, having a
right,
community like that. Even the two women that I mentioned earlier that worked with me as contractors and then now
yeah,
have their own businesses, we still meet virtually, like at least maybe once a month, even a couple of times a month, and just kind of talk shop and
yeah.
sometimes refer business back and forth. So even just having those people that are in your industry and can sort of serve as those, co-worker relationships, if
I
you
love
will.
that.
Mhm.
Yeah, yeah. And I love too that I could see some entrepreneurs feeling like, oh, but they're my competition. And, if it's and especially in the same industry, but I love that you're hitting on, you guys can refer business to one another. I think a lot of times what I say is there's no other you. So once you, like when you really connect with that authenticity or even your unique story as you do with Story Brand, you realize that even though someone might be in the same industry as you, like you have different clients, you have, right fit or different.
Yes.
So
Yeah. There's lots of business to go around. I don't think every business has mastered their marketing just yet. So
right. And it continues to constantly evolve and change.
That's right.
Whether it's a new social channel or algorithmic change or what have you. So
exactly.
And it's everything, outside the window, whatever changes also impacts it. So I'm with you on that. Well, so any specific, I know you've offered some advice, but is there any specific tips you would give for, our viewers or listeners who, are on the fence about, whether they should, go it alone or get the team or, how do you get the right team? So those sorts of questions.
Yeah. I think number one would just be figuring out what you want to do. I did go through another little crisis of conscience, probably like 3 or 4 years ago. When I was like, oh no, maybe should I be hiring people again? Like, especially again, I was kind of looking around at folks in my Story Brand community, and there were people that were building agencies and people that were hiring and doing all the things. And I was like, should I be doing that? Is that the next
step?
Yeah. And I kind of struggled with that for a little bit. And then I really was like, I don't want to. That is not for me. I don't want to. For the people that want to do that, fantastic. That's great. I don't want to. And that's just not a good fit for me. I like being able to work kind of independently and just kind of have my clients and just do my thing. And I just kind of released that going, I don't want to do that. And I'm not going to say I never will, because you never know. But in the moment, it was like, no, this works really well for me. And so this is what I want to do. And so I think just not getting caught up in what everybody else is doing and feeling like, well, I have a business, so I guess I have to hire people and I have to do this and I should be doing these things. Just figuring out what really works for you and the things, how you work best and how you want to structure your business.
I absolutely love that, Holly. It's almost like I want to just hit repeat because what you just said, because I think that, it's true though, because like the irony is that when, you go into business as an entrepreneur, solopreneur, any of those titles, right? Freelancer, like when you go into business on your own, you will find yourself like inevitably faced with these questions. But the irony is that you went on your own because you wanted to build a business that you desire. You wanted to, experience freedom is often one of those words, or independence. And then you put yourself in these predicaments where maybe you're doing something based on what you think you should be doing, as you say.
Yes.
But I've already taught my 6-year-old, you do you. So I think it's wonderful. I talk about like what you're describing is like the ins and outs, right? So the outside world, I'm seeing other Story Brand guides doing X, Y, or Z. And then internally you're going, should I do that? But it's about really being able to find that alignment and live in harmony with it. And you're 100% correct. It's constantly changing. And I'm sure this question, I love that you hit on that. This question comes up again, and maybe it will next week or 2 years from now. Who knows? But
who knows what things will look like 2 or 3 years down the road. But just kind of being comfortable going, no, I'm okay to work the way I want to. And I would say also just not rushing into something like that. If you do think, yes, I do want to grow and I want to have more people on my team, that's great. But just sort of easing into that, I think starting with maybe some contract folks, a virtual assistant, just people so you can start
to the waters.
That out. Yes. And make sure that you're comfortable with that and that your business can support that. Right. And because that was the other thing too, is like, man, I don't really want to be responsible for someone's livelihood.
Yeah.
Soul income, like, feels really like kind of scary. So
Yeah.
making sure that you just kind of test the waters in your business, that you
Yeah.
and your business can handle that.
Well, I'm sure even from this conversation, Holly, and knowing you a bit before, that if you did go down that path, you would be a wonderful boss. But I also love in this conversation how, you know, like how you talk about this topic and like, kind of pacing yourself and listen within, and how you've done that for yourself. I'm sure that is every reason why the clients you work with you and what they love about you. So I'm going to put up your website because I know people want to get to know you. So they can visit fisher-creative.com.
Yes.
But tell us, a little bit about who you do work with and like working with, and,
Sure.
what you have to offer our listeners today.
Yeah, absolutely. So I work with a lot of smaller businesses, a lot of solopreneurs, a lot of folks with just maybe a handful of people, small teams. I tend to work, one-on-one with the business owners usually. And I love taking people through that process to really make sure that their messaging is really clear. Then I'll write all of their website content. We'll make sure we have that really nailed down, and then just helping them with the rest of their marketing. So lead generation, whether that's a lead magnet, email campaigns, other content that they might need for their business. So,
well, I love that how you say you're a content creator and clarity queen. So I'm sure that 7-step process, that's where the clarity comes, right?
absolutely. Yes. Yes. A lot of folks come to me thinking I need a new website, or I want to start sending emails to my list. And I'm like, all right, that's fantastic, but let's take a step back and make sure we really know how we're communicating to customers and clients, and build that foundation. And then the rest of the pieces will just fall into place after that.
I love it.
That's really important to get that done first. People are much happier when that's nailed down.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, we definitely have that in common. I think, I always say begin with the story, because, in marketing, it's easy to start with the action, but I love that you're leading them through that.
Yeah.
And here is where you can find Holly's business on LinkedIn, Fisher Creative LLC, and Facebook and Instagram, Fisher Creative Marketing. And you have a free gift. Is that right?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. Folks can go take this story brand marketing report. It's an assessment that you take and just kind of look at your own marketing and kind of like, do I have this or not? Do I have these key elements in place? And you'll get a custom report sent back to you via email that you can take a look at and kind of see where the gaps are in your marketing.
Maybe there's even some insights too of if they need a team or not to maybe, right? I mean, it's true. I feel like this fit. I'm so glad you're talking about this topic, because I feel that, marketing is constantly, and communications in general is constantly growing, and it could be nonstop, depending on the nature of your business as well. It's a factor. So, my message to viewers is don't go it alone. I think it's interesting too that we both have an assistant that helps with the social postings, because, I think the way I describe like certain things is like the keeping your lights on, marketing that you do, like the one marketing you have to do to be like, hey, we're in business, like the Google profile and all of that, right? Like, and then there's the expansion, right? Like you're talking about the lead generation, the lead magnets, all of that. So it's a lot for, how we feel about the accounting piece. Yeah, that's not what I do. Like, there's other entrepreneurs that, should go and do this report, to get this report, because, if you don't know anything about marketing, that's okay. You don't have to be a marketing guru to run a business these days.
Absolutely. So, yeah. You can definitely bring in some really great consultants and folks to help you that are essentially kind of part of your team. I mean, I like to sort of feel like I'm part of the team when
I feel that in how you show up too. Yeah. And even how you're saying like to go with them through the process. I talk about like I walk with you on the journey. Yeah. So it's like a breath of fresh air to connect with, and that's why I wanted to have you on the show, because I feel like that's not always what you get. I think a lot of times with marketing you might get this like cookie cutter thing. but somebody who's willing to, sit at the table or, I say sit by the fire with you and guide you through the process is really invaluable. So
Yeah, I
I
love
love
that
what you're doing.
relationship piece. So it's like, I'm like, people that work with me, be prepared for me to ask you about like your kids and your weekend and like, things like
Yeah,
that.
yeah. So, well, I think the irony here is that I would say you already have the team. It's just your team is the people you're working with, right?
Yeah,
So,
exactly. Yeah,
yeah, you become part of their team. So,
exactly.
well, this was wonderful. I want to give back, time here at the end to our viewers and to you as well, Holly. But, you can find this recording afterwards on my website at inflectionpointcoms.com. And yeah, thank you so much for sharing your story. I think really good tips about marketing, but also topic, to team or not to team. So that is the question for our viewers. And I want to invite our viewers to tune in next month, July 20th. Same time, 1:30 p.m. Eastern time. I'll be talking to Sean Phillips, and we'll be talking about reframing your story. Speaking of story, so she is a golden admin. So some of those systems and administrative tasks. So she'll be bringing a different take to it. But I hope you can join us all, Holly, and hear her story. But thank you so much for being here, and have a wonderful rest of your day. Thank you all.
Thank you.